Welcome back to the print shack, guys. Got another video for you today. Won't exactly be the one I thought I was going to create today. Today I thought I was going to create a video like volume 2 of my photo station, but instead I got a printer failure over here on Wrangle today. So the error I'm having is that the AMS isn't able to feed filament down to the tool head. Now, this first happened when I was like 3/4 of the way through a print, and I got this, and I went through everything. First thing, obviously you check to make sure you don't have a problem in the AMS with the spool, the filament being tangled or not feeding properly out of the AMS. I did all that, and I did a bunch of work trying to save the print, and didn't get there. So it wasn't the problem. The problem I'm having is the filament's not getting past the buffer. So I put in a small print here. Let's take a look at that, and I'll show you what exactly is happening. And what the problem is the filaments, the AMS is trying to send the filament from the spool down to the print head, and it's not making it to the print head. Hopefully we'll be able to capture that here. Let me move the camera in now. What I've been experiencing is the filament will leave the AMS, run down till it gets to the buffer. The buffer's that orange device in the back, and then it won't be able to feed through the buffer. Hopefully we'll be able to catch this so I can show you the fault. The buffer's that orange piece in the back, and what it does, it comes in and you'll see it go choo, and it pushes the buffer all the way over to the right, but the filament isn't allowed to pass through it, and it retracts, and then it tries to send it again, and it tries to do it again, and eventually it gives an error. So now that we know what the problem is, or where the problem's located, maybe not the exact problem, it's somewhere in the buffer. Let me get the printer off the station. We'll get it over here. We'll start taking it apart. So we got the printer on the bench, and the first thing you want to make sure is that the PETF2 is fully inserted. You know, it goes in on the top entry points here, and you should see it through this little window. That little window, if you can see the PTF tube in the window, then you know that it has been inserted properly all the way. Okay? And again, the problem that we're having is the filaments coming down the PTF tube from the AMS, coming over and jamming. It can't get past the buffer here. Okay? So I think you can do it without taking it off. But the first thing I'm going to do is take off this side panel here, and at that point you'll actually be able to see the routing of the PTF tube into the machine. And there's one screw that I have to take out. So up here in the corner, there's one screw right up here. We'll take that screw out, and then this whole panel should come out. So I have the screw removed down here. Now this whole panel should just pop right off. So with the panel off, you can now see that the PTF tube, you can see the path that it runs. It runs down through here, up through here. And you can see it through the little window there and on over. So you can see that this wasn't a problem. This was in the correct position. So therefore the problem is in the buffer itself, and there's 4 screws on the back that we're going to have to take out to pull off the buffer from the machine. Next I'm going to remove these 4 screws right here. So with the 4 screws from the back removed, along with the PETF tube, the buffer will just drop down now. And there's a circuit card on the back here with 3 little screws. I'll take those screws out next using the small Allen, and that'll free up the buffer so we can take it to the bench to take a look at it. So with the filament buffer removed on the bench, you can see this is the screw bosses where the circuit board was attached to. But when you take it off, you got to watch back here in the corner, because back here in the corner there's a little spring with a magnet on it. So the magnet, when it's removed, if you look closely, is not square. It's got a offset corner here, right? And that's designed that way to allow the filament, when it's running through the buffer, to pass one way but not from the other, right? So it's important that you keep this oriented properly when you place it back in. I'll go over that in a second. So when I took this apart, I really thought that what I would find is the magnet wasn't in the proper position, that it had flipped inside this little slot here. But that wasn't the case. What I found was this little piece of filament was stuck inside there. And I believe that's what was causing the whole problem, because the magnet was in proper orientation. But since I have this apart, I'm going to show you both. So you're going to check, make sure you don't got any debris, little pieces of filament in there, which I did, and then you want to check this orientation. So it fits in this little slot. I'm going to try to zoom in here a little bit so you can see it a little better while I put it back, hopefully. And what you want is the little magnet to be placed in the slot so that the filament can run this way through from the AMS and allow it to. But if you put in filament from this side, it won't go. So you want the angle here to be facing this way. So let's put the magnet back in proper orientation, again with the slot facing this way. And when we put it in there, the filament will feed all the way through. But if I try to feed the filament from the other way, which would be from the tool head, it won't go. See, that's proper orientation. Now the problem we were having was it was coming over, it wasn't able to pass through the buffer, and it was moving the orange piece over, remember? So had this magnet not been in the proper orientation, it could have caused that condition. But in my case, it was this little piece of filament that was causing the problem. So let's put it back together and we'll give it a try. Again, we're just going to put the circuit board back on, screw it down, and then screw it back in place. Let's get that done. It's the reverse order, so I showed it to you already. Okay, so we got Wrangle back in its station. I ran full calibration because we moved it, right? Loaded filament, started the print. It fed the filament just fine right on down the tool head. As you can see, it's printing a part right now, working perfectly again. So, in the review, in my case, the problem was a small piece of filament that was stuck in the buffer, but it could have been been very easily been the little magnet that got rotated and wasn't allowing the filament to go through. Chances are, when you have that problem, where, like I did, where the filament was trying to load from the AMS, it got down to the buffer, and all it did was move that buffer over, and as soon as it moved the buffer over, it retracted again, and did it again, and did it again. When you get that problem, it's going to be in the buffer area there, okay? Check your PTF tube, make sure it hasn't come all backed out, that it's pushed in all the way. As long as it's pushed in all the way, then the problem's probably in that buffer. And it's going to be one of those two areas I showed you here. So I hope this video was beneficial to you, helps you out. If it did, please go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I do appreciate that, helps me on the channel. And I'll see you in my next video.